have perfected the Enduring Legacy. Not only is this the best general rounds weapon in the entire game, bolstering some of the biggest magazines, crazy amounts of damage, can ignite enemies and shred resistances. After 8 crystallization catalysts, I can safely say that the Enduring Legacy is a must build weapon if you're trying to take your game to the next level. Let me show you how I build it. So we are over on the build section, guys, and I want to start off very quickly by saying, guys, one of the biggest comments I saw in my pre-perfected videos for the Enduring Legacy were a lot of comments talking about how the Tamer is still the best weapon. And I just wanted to say, first off, guys, there is a time and a place for each individual weapon in the game, and the time for the Tamer is basically the early game where you actually have access to a very accessible weapon that has high rounds. By no means is the Tamer a bad weapon, but when it comes to the actual fact of the matter, the Tamer is nowhere near the top when it comes to actual raw DPS numbers. Solid FPS did recently release a video on the subject matter comparing different forms of builds with different mods, and I'll have that link down in the description for you guys to check it out for those of you who are still convinced that the Tamer is the best weapon to use. But for the rest of the people who are looking to progress their account, there's no better time than right now to get the Enduring Legacy, especially considering there is a update coming that's going to even more so buff the very dominant weapon that it already is. And if you're having trouble farming it, I have a video linked down in the description going over the fastest method that I found to actually farm this weapon up. With all that out of the way, let's talk about the Enduring Legacy stats for those of you who are just kind of new to the weapon. Feel free to skip ahead, everything is timestamped if you're looking for the mods. So the Enduring Legacy is a 20% base flat crit rate chance weapon, has 115 base rounds, has a very comparable reload time to other weapons like the Tamer, 10% crushing effect, and then it has a base 1.7 crit multi, which is also higher than the Tamer. It has the very same weak point damage. It has a better attribute status trigger because you do want to trigger statuses on this weapon. Has a better effective drop off range on every single way than the Tamer, and it has better move speed than the Tamer as well. So as you can probably tell, this weapon is a direct upgrade. The only negative will be the fire rate. It has a lower fire rate, but considering all the damage, all the range improvements, everything else, the weapon is significantly more effective. It also has a unique ability that's basically called quenching. Whenever you hit an enemy that is burned, it's going to increase your firearm attack and give you some increased attack. I have gotten one copy of this and I'm halfway done with the other copy. I just haven't farmed it, but as you continue to level this up, it's going to increase the max stacks by 5, and it's going to increase the shred on the negative fire resistance, and the firearm will scale by 1%. So it makes the weapon significantly better at every single upgrade. It will eventually shred the fire resistance of pretty fire immune enemies, and it will absolutely destroy things like Dead Bride and Frostwalker because they just take so much damage. It's a great weapon option for pretty much any Descendant, but if you do play things like Blair for some insane reason, if you play Lepic or if you play easy mode, you may get a little bit more benefit since they do basically fire based abilities. As you can see, I have assigned 9 crystallization catalysts as well as use a energy activator for this weapon, so I'm super hyper invested in this weapon. Unless they release something absolutely crazy, I don't see myself swapping from this weapon. But yeah, this is the Enduring Legacy in terms of like its passive. Let's move on to the actual mods of the weapon. Before we move on to the mods of the weapon, I kind of lied. I did want to quickly go over the substats. We're using firearm crit hit rate, we're using fire attack. This is proccing our burn effect, and it procs it very easily, I'd like to point out. We have firearm crit hit damage, and then we have firearm attack. Alternatively, you can use superheated gun barrel if you wanted to like get some fire, or you want to use like what's the other one called, fire enhancement. You can use that to give yourself the ability to proc it. I use firearm attack because like when I rolled it got fire attack on it, so I just kept using it and it's legendary. But kind of use whatever you want. Let's go to the mods now for real this time. So quickly, let's go over what we're building. So my weapon has 689,000 DPS. I wish you could get 700k. That would be so great for a thumbnail. But we have 689,000 DPS on this weapon. It's a absolute monster of a weapon. For the first slot, because I wanted to talk about this one first, is I'm using Mental Focus. Now I like this because it gives me firearm attack for like every time I'm just shooting the weapon, and it can stack up to 250 times. There are 2 other options that you can consider if you want to use. There's Sharp Precision Shot. This is going to reduce your fire rate. You'll get some recoil, you'll get some firearm attack, and then it will eventually give you a ton of firearm attack once you like keep shooting and stuff. So you will get it back and some. This is an option that you can use. And the other option is Real Life Fighter. This is by far the highest damage increase but it does require you to continuously shoot weak points. If you are someone who can shoot weak points and a better aimer than I am, then absolutely use this, because this is going to be the best option in terms of raw damage. I'm a bad player, so I like to use mental focus because I just like to shoot at things. I'm always reading chat, whatever the case is, whatever my excuse is, but use whatever you want. I would highly recommend using a 3 slot here because it will have mental focus and it will have real life fighter, and they're both really diverse, but that's going to be up to you what you want. There's a little bit of like versatility in that. Keep in mind, for mental focus, I do have 180 rounds in this weapon, I believe. Yeah, 171 rounds in the mag, so I will get the full effect of the bonus no matter what, and have like 20 more shots after that, so I can continuously, you know, shoot. So that's really important to note. That's why I like mental focus, because it actually works really well for players like me who aren't going to be able to hit only weak points at the time. The weapon does have a little bit of a kick, so it's going to be a little harder to shoot compared to weapons like the Tamer, but that's fine. You're shooting at Colossus with big parts, so it is what it is. Next, we have action and reaction. This one is going to also give you more recoil like problems with the weapon, but you're shooting at Colossus, so it doesn't really matter, but it gives you a ton of firearm attack and kind of mandatory. Next, we're using Better Insight. This is a crit based weapon. You're going to get some extra crit from this, and crit is really important to scale on this build, so we're using Better Insight. We're using Rifling Reinforcement, another core like module for pretty much any builds. Firearm attack is good, deal more damage. Next, we're using Concentration Priority. This is going to increase our reload time, but because the crit damage is so like insane on this, you have to use it. The newest addition, and we replaced our R slot for a C slot, and we're using Expanded Weapon Charge. This is giving us 49% to our magazine, and this is the reason why I have 170 shots instead of 115, which is the base. This is going to make it so you get that mental focus buff, and most importantly, just keep firing is really good. If you're a Glay main and you don't specifically want to like play anything else and you only want to play Glay, you can drop this for something else. Maybe find, I don't know, reload speed or something, because you may not need it, but in my opinion, for every other Descendant, this is a good one, and I swapped the R slot for it, so yeah, really good. Next, we have Fire Rate Up. The extra rate of fire is actually really noticeable, so I would highly recommend using Fire Rate Up over the other ones. The other ones don't have enough benefits on the back end, which is like 2% weak point damage and other nonsense that doesn't really contribute much. The 5% more that you get from Fire Rate Up is much better, so make sure you put this one in. We're using Better Concentration, of course, because the crit hit damage is really important on this weapon. Then this is another new addition for my previous build. I didn't realize this gave so much crit in the first build. Whoops on my part. But this has firearm crit hit rate 43%, but you lose a little bit of firearm attack. 15% is like super whatever, but 43% crit rate is actually pretty massive, so something you definitely want to put in. And then finally, we do want Weak Point Sight. I know we don't build a ton of Weak Point, and it is a one-time multi on the weapon base, but Weak Point is a multiplier that you should take advantage of. So I'm using Weak Point Sight in this like specific slot, and that is pretty much the build. The weapon is a monstrosity of a weapon. I'm a big fan of what this weapon has to offer. If you're a Glay, if you have an Enzo on your team, having the ability to just lay in 171 rounds into an enemy is absolutely insane. And once again, if you're a player looking to progress their account, the Enduring Legacy is going to be, in my opinion, the next best option to upgrade from the Tamer, upgrade for the Eternal Willpower, upgrade from anything, in my opinion, because it is just so damn good. Anyways, that's going to be it for the build for the Enduring Legacy. I may leave some clips at the end of the video of me facing stuff. I don't know. I'll see how I feel. But yeah, if you guys have any questions about the Enduring Legacy, feel free to leave them down in the comments. I'll try my best to answer them. I am an official Nexon creator, so if you guys are looking to support a content creator, feel free to use my code. I will have that as the pinned comment. It doesn't cost you anything and actually helps me out. If you like pay for anything, I get a kickback, and that helps me quite a bit. Check out that video from Solid FPS if you need some math on the weapons. And yeah, just like that, guys, I'll see you in the next video very soon.